Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? All right. Getting ready to kick this thing off here in a second. Um, Hope everybody's well. I did want to double check if y'all could access the chat for the live stream. Um, just let me know if y'all can open it or type in it. I'm just curious. I went live just a little bit early to make sure everything was set up properly. Okay, perfect, perfect. It's so different live streaming through the studio using OBS. It's pretty interesting. It's actually way easier than I was expecting it to be, but I guess the functionality with OBS now, you can basically take your live stream code and just drop it straight into OBS without connecting your account, make it easy. But but yeah, I just wanted to test it just in case, just to make sure um, everything is populating correctly. So we'll make it quick and sweet. Just go through the ideology on some of these things today. So this basically, I want to go through a actual project that I'm working on and kind of just the ideas and processes that personally I go through when I'm helping design these things. Um, and like using simplified tools like Canva, which everybody can use. There's some really, really great ways to use it that you can kind of plan and you can, utilize the way they have it set up in a development setting. And that's kind of what I'm going to go through today. And I'll basically go through like a live example of my ideas when designing, and then I can kind of run through both the design I'll work on and then a couple of others that I've worked on. So should be pretty helpful. But it's good to practice, you know. And this is honestly the streaming. I'm kind of just streaming work that I do. Um, so this is a pretty normal, consistent practice at around this time that I'll sit down and really dive into, I guess, these processes and these ideas. Because usually it's, a little bit quieter in the evenings, and I can get hyper focused on this stuff. So um, yeah, hopefully it's insightful. I mean, it's not something that'll be perfected right away, especially in the very first trial runs. But my goal is I'd really love to try and do this every week and alternate between the development process and cycles, and then also kind of showcase some of our projects and things that we're working on that, I use these processes for to actually get to, um, what we're doing. Oh, my boy David in the house. What's up, David? And there's a lag on the audio. So the audio will have a little bit of a lag. So just FYI, if I respond to something a bit later, that's the reason why. So big shout out to my boy David. He and I are currently working on a podcast. It's been tremendously fun to start kind of shooting and working on. Um, but yeah, he's a great guy. You got to make sure y'all check him out. Instagram, Trader Kang. He's literally he's a great trader, even better person. So perfect, perfect. 6 o'clock. So we'll run just like 6 to 7. Um, and I'll try to fit in as much as I can today. I don't want to go too long because I don't want it to be drawn out or boring or anything for anyone. But what I really want to do is just give you my thought process and give you something to maybe think about or even practice on a random piece of land that you see or that a client has or whatever it is, and just kind of use this as a baseline for your design, your ideology, and it's a great way to understand what can we put here and how do we monetize this? Like, how do we transition this piece of dirt into something amazing, into real estate, into buildings, into homes, into whatever it is that you're really wanting to do or your clients are really wanting to do. I think it's important to really help your clients sometimes with vision. Um, it's easy to talk about it and assume that certain things will work, but it's not always the case. You sometimes you run into these hangups with the size of the land or rules and things that pop up in place. And I have to stress that this is not to supplement the highly important needs of a civil engineer, a really strong civil engineer, a really strong architectural team, and then relative to the project, you have your architects, your structural engineers, and your MEP, which is for your mechanical, your electric, and your plumbing. So those are the most important people in this phase. This is just a way to articulate something tangible that they can kind of drive off of, that your clients can kind of give some feedback on. So yeah, right. So at 6:05, in about 3 minutes, I'm gonna kick this thing off. What I pulled up on the screen, and hopefully y'all are able to see all of this. It looks like it's showing up properly over here. Basically, this right here is a piece of land that we actually have acquired through a really amazing client of mine, and we're in the process now of somewhat completing two of his other big projects. And this is our next project that we are going to plan to start. And it's a very interesting piece of land because of how it was acquired and what we're planning to do there. Um, so with this particular property, originally when it was acquired, the concept that was put in place here was for all multifamily units. So it was going to be three garden style units, which are basically a freestanding three-story building. And, each floor you have your units. So they had capacity and plans for about 200 multifamily units, which is quite a bit. And with the ideologies through my client, we are pivoting and looking to potentially go into mixed use. And the mixed use process and ideas are definitely very different because you're integrating two parts. You're integrating on the frontage retail, and then in the back is where you're going to have your leasing. So you're diversifying the lot into two different asset classes. So that's always a good thing. You just want to make sure from a financial perspective, a phase development perspective, that it's going to make the most sense. So here in just a second, we're going to get it going. I see Aaron in the house. What's up, Aaron? How are you, brother? My man, all handsome and shit. Golly, this guy. If y'all don't know Aaron, y'all should check him out on Instagram. He's like a high fashion model on all these magazines. He's way too handsome. Sometimes I open my phone, all the people around me fall in love. They see his picture, so I have to be careful. But what's up, Aaron? But cool. Yeah, I'm excited to get this going. It's gonna be. I've never done this before where I've sat down, and usually this is pretty private, somewhat intimate process with myself going through this and thinking about it and evaluating it. But I'm definitely excited to kind of show how we do this. So uh, all right, well, let's go ahead and get things started. Looks like I have this is good to go here. Get caught up. Got the live going. All right. So, oops. All righty. So just a quick overview. So the way I have this set up, and if y'all can't hear me, let me know. Um, the way I have this set up is I have one channel open over here, so I can see kind of what y'all are seeing to make sure it's in line. Over on this screen here, I have both my YouTube and I have my OBS open, so I can make sure everything's lining up, which seems to be working well. And then on my PC in front of me, this is where I'm operating everything we'll go through today. So yeah, we'll go ahead and roll into this. So I'll open this up right here. So I've already preliminarily put a couple of things in place on this sheet. So this was the survey that we received when we acquired this property. Um, the the thing about this survey, once again, it's several lots that combined make an aggregate of 3.61 acres. So when we go through this process, especially when you're doing mixed use, you're going to go through the replat phase. And the replat is basically going to be changing all of these lots, 17, 18, 19, and 20, combining all of these lots into one lot. And that one lot will operate one aspect of your development. So in this instance, if we were doing all multifamily, the 200 unit multifamily, this would be replatted as one large property to facilitate the multifamily. The practice today is instead of that, we're going to try to work out how we can do mixed use where because this is Wheatley, which this is the border of Independence Heights and kind of Acres area. Um, we want to utilize this frontage because we have a lot of linear frontage and we want to use this for retail and use this, economical, nice, simplified retail, maybe a pad site for, fast food or some restaurants or something like that. Um, kind of as a ancillary value to whatever we do behind it. So behind it, whether it's multifamily garden style, high density BTR single family, which is where we're going to squeeze a bunch of small units together that are just freestanding or single story with four per building and have the retail in the front. So typically we would want to develop back first because as your rear section, from a value perspective, imagine you have like a scale um, here. So from the front of the property here to the back of the property here, there's a sliding scale of value. The property here at the end in the back is less valuable than the property at the front. So property at the front, because it has the frontage, the visibility, it's valuable for retail because you need that optic. But if you develop the back first, and let's say this section back here to like right here, just rough example, this becomes our multifamily, our mixed use, whatever it decides to be. And then we reserve this for the retail. If we build this first, then this land becomes more valuable because we have developed the least valuable part of the dirt, which is the backside. Now we've enhanced it and we transformed it into a really beautiful, tangible asset that's going to have a ton of people living there and operating there. So this becomes even more valuable because you have supporting people living directly behind it. So it's good for the retail center. But then on top of that, you have linear feet on the main road. So you have the optics as well. So that's the ideology here, splitting it up into these two kind of spaces. So the very first thing I do, and this is one of the things I think is important, and it's really cool that you can utilize this with Canva, is I look at the survey. And surveys have all these different boundaries, all these different markings, all of these things that are true to scale measurements that a survey company has given you. So the first thing I do is I try to identify a width somewhere, something that's a line. So as you can see right here, this from this line to this line right here is 10.8 feet. So from the inside line to inside line, we have a 10-foot measurement to scale of the property. So basically, I will take one of these lines. As you can see, I have them marked up here. Each one of these lines is representative of 10 feet. So I know I have 10 feet all the way through to here. So because of the linear length of it, I know it's a slightly shorter here. So this is what the metric is called for on the survey. So let's see here. And then down here you have 420. So we have our 10-foot line here. So we need to double check this line. So I'll just get this, I'll duplicate it, and I want to run it down. So now here you can zoom in and you'll get your baseline 10 feet. So we know we want to measure from roughly here to roughly here. So this is going to be our estimate for 10 feet. And once again, you want to try and keep it flat, but yeah, let's see. There we go. That's pretty good. So roughly 10 feet. So now we'll zoom back out, and we want to use this as our baseline for everything. So here, so now we have our 10 foot, and if you duplicate it, now you have your 20 foot. So that is our 20-foot baseline for everything. So these here, let's see here. I'm going to lock this. Here's another quick tip. And I learned this recently at the KW event. I always had a problem highlighting and dragging things. I could not figure out like how to do it. So you can lock this in so that if you highlight and drag things, it's not going to drag everything. So like for this here, these two together, I'm going to color code these. So this second one will go with, you can go with black, right? But since we have these in a line and you're lining them up perfectly, if you just hit this here, let's see, and you do it again, Canva will automatically start lining them up for you. So I want to line these up all the way across, making sure that I have my 10-foot variances put in place. So this will give me my kind of baselines for 10 feet all the way across. This is going to give me a good understanding of to scale development, to scale buildings, road widths, things like that. That'll be very important when you're really trying to understand and maximize the land that you're working on. So here we go. And boom. So now I'll go back and I'll take the second and I'll do black. Then rotate the color code so that you understand where your variances are every 10 feet. So this will give you kind of your baseline understanding of everything for the entire site. And I'll show you the easiest way to duplicate this because we want it both vertically and horizontally. So we're knocking out the horizontal side right now. This is slightly tedious, but once again, this is true to scale. And that's very important when you're trying to deliver something for your clients. You don't want to guesstimate. You don't want to put them in potential harm's way or put a project in potential harm's way by not necessarily taking these things into account. Because sometimes it's tricky when you're looking at the sizes of certain things. So we'll knock this out real quick. And this is, once again, this is what I do on all of these projects because I want to make sure that I can accommodate. So now that we have that done, I'll X out of this, and this is where the locking feature comes in handy. So now, because we have this locked, I'm gonna only highlight these here, boom. Now you can duplicate. Let's see. Sorry. There we are. That should do it. Oh, it's duplicating the background too. Sorry, I gotta lock that. Here, locked. Boom. Duplicate. Now we'll take this, we'll run it horizontally, and we will place this on this side. So we want to line it up once again, kind of here as close as we can to the border and in a place that's not going to be like too problematic. These down here, I'm just going to remove them. There we go. We'll delete that. So now we have our lines here and we have our lines from this side down. Since it exceeds whatever we don't need, we'll just get rid of. So cool. So now we have a pretty good understanding of, let me lock this. We have a pretty good understanding of our widths and lengths of everything. So now as we're going 10 feet all the way through, we're going to look at, okay, how are we going to design this and what is necessary for retail on the front and what is necessary for the buildings on the back. So when you're looking at the lengths and depths of everything, you want to start quantifying how are we gonna develop this pad. So the first thing I want to separate where I would expect there to be roughly, let's see here, there we go. So we're going to start with a concept here, which would encompass where we're planning for there to be homes or mixed use or whatever. Then we'll take the same thing and we'll line it up with the front. We'll make an adjustment here and then we'll change this. So with retail, our retail color today will be blue. So we have blue for retail and we have green for our residential or our, BTR, whatever it is. So I think this is kind of like a good baseline. Now, because you have stuff back here, you do need to have access roads. And something that's very important is when you have more than 200 linear feet, you need to make sure you have two exits in and out, and you need to make sure the roads are large enough to facilitate the fire lanes and things like that. And that gets very tricky because it's a case by case thing depending on where you're at, which county, which municipality, which jurisdiction. They all have different kind of rules and regulations. But right here, we do have a turn in already. So this, in my opinion, is going to be a great access point for people to turn in for two things: access the retail and access the multifamily. So with this type of road, with an assumption, once again, it's relative, and this is where accuracy can be important, but also you want to cross-reference all of these things with whomever you're working with from the civil engineering side. So now we need to say, okay, this road is probably going to need to be like 60 feet wide. So we need to double check, okay, what does 60 feet look like? So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So we know a 60-foot road is going to run us 2, 4, 6, something like this. So now we take this, and this is our baseline for our road access, if you will. And because we want our road access to try and run from here where we already have the curb cut, then we can extend this in. Now, with this access in, you also have to have access out. So now we can flip it to this other side because we have, what our dimensions need to be for a 60-foot road. And we'll scale this back down here and we'll have another access road here. So now we know we've utilized 60 feet, 60 feet, 120 feet. So we have a total of 366 feet. We've utilized 120 feet of that. So we have, let's just say we have 100, 220, 220 feet of frontage remaining here. And then the depth, if you will, based on this green line or on the blue line. So we have another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30. So we have 130 by roughly 220. So 130 by 220 gives us, let's see, so it gives us about 26,000 square feet, 28,600 square feet. So we want to notate that because that's going to be a very important number for us to know. So 28. So I know they may be thinking, okay, well, there are build line setbacks and there are all these things that you have to take into account off the road. So there will be build lines. And the thing is with a build line, you can't put a building in it, but you can put your parking in it. So it's great to utilize your parking all the way here in the front. So the parking spaces are roughly 20 feet long and about 10 feet wide, which is slightly oversized. But because we've already kind of put together our scaling mechanism, I'll use Canva. I'll look up parking space. And let's see. All right. Hey, it's parking lot. There we go. Okay. So we'll try to find something like this. So we'll go see all. This is the one I usually try to use. And once again, if each one of these is 20 feet, this needs to be 60 feet wide. 60 feet wide will accommodate these parking spaces for the front project. All right. So now we'll take this. We already have 60 feet measured out here. So we'll scale this down to meet what would be 60 feet. And now we can start kind of putting in what would be our parking. So now we're designing out our parking, and we need to understand what the distances between the parking spaces need to be for the retail. And then what happens here, sometimes you'll run into, oh, you need one more spot. So you can go in here and you can crop this. So I'll crop this down to just one spot, and I'll make that last parking spot. So boom. So now I'll put that final parking spot here at the end. So we've got a line of parking here in the front. So we'll quantify this. We have three, wait, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, 13 parking on one side. So that's another item I will notate. So we have 13 parking on this side. Boom, bing, bam. All right. So good. So we know we have 13 here. We know we have 26,000 here. What it's looking like is we'll probably need to push this back a little bit because there is a distance that you're going to need between the cars. And once again, this is where kind of the, let me lock this again. So we'll lock this in place. I'm going to lock our parking in place. And then I want to take, not you, and not you. So I'm going to move these out of the way because we know this parking fits here. So now we can duplicate it. Oh, sorry. See, I didn't lock everything. So here, duplicated it. But now I'll lock that. Sorry about that. Boom. Duplicated. Rotate that sucker back to 180 degrees. Bam. More parking. So now we have parking, which the retail building can sit here. Parking can sit here. We just need to make sure that the distances are plenty. So from this parking space to this parking space, the linear space we'll need here is about 60 feet in total. So we know we have 20 with roughly 2 parking spots. Let's see, 1, 2. Actually, these are a little oversized for the. So double check your math, kids. There we go. So now we have way more parking. Okay. So see, this makes me feel better because you want to have as much parking as you can. So once again, let me repeat this process. My apologies, everyone. But bam, being see ya, and boom. Okay, so we'll add this last piece of parking here, and that's fine. If it overlaps, that's okay. You know, once again, we're trying to be as accurate as possible. There's some overlap on the lines, blah, blah, blah. So now we'll do this again. I will duplicate. I will reverse it like Missy Elliott. All right. So now we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. So I'm going to push this over here to 70 right here. So we want to be in line with this one right here. So as we kind of scale it down, boom, we're in line. Parking's looking beautiful. So now we have our parking spaces, which are equal to 20 feet deep. And the width on them, of course, it's going to be relative, but it's supposed to be around 10. So we're going to assume that this is pretty close. So we'll have our turn-ins. We have a total number of parking that is wrong. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 times 3 is 24. So we have 48 parking spots right here. Make this easy on ourselves. Boom. We'll go 48 parking. All right. A little space action in there. All right. Rotate that. Bam. So there we go. So now we know we have 48 parking spaces. And we know that this space was a total of 26,000 square feet that was being used. So the way I quantify this parking typically is about 350 square feet per parking space. So if we have, let's see, 48. So we have roughly 17,000 square feet of parking and parking lot here, not including what we put in on the roads on the side, just this space in the center. So this was the total value of this area. We're going to duplicate it and we're going to notate parking. So parking is going to be roughly 17,000 so square feet. Okay. So now we have a good understanding on this. So where you want to hold this information is up to you, but I like to kind of put it somewhere where I can always reference it if I need to. And I can get rid of these. Boom, 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 boom. So we have parking, and then we have what was the original lot. So we'll do OG lot, boom, and we'll just save these numbers just so we know them, just so we're aware. So now the difference between these two, we roughly have a little over 10,000 to 11,600 square feet. So 11,600 square feet of parking of retail. Now you want to look at, okay, what is my parking ratio is going to kind of be like? So if your parking ratios for standard retail, you want for every 1,000 square feet of leasable space, you want 4 parking spaces. So with 48,000 or 48 parking spaces, let's see, so we have roughly 12,000 square feet of retail that we can squeeze in here. So now it's design side. We can either reduce the parking and fit in retail, or we can increase this. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. How do we minimize, maximize what we're trying to do here? So we have the, let's see, 28. So that means we have a building technically that we could put in here that's 11,600 square feet. There will be buffers because you're going to have like, access points and roadways and stuff like that. So now, generic design, do you want to add drive-throughs and things like that? Drive-throughs will reduce your parking, reduce your building footprint, but could potentially increase the desirability of a end cap. So you could have like, whoever you want to go in the corner, Jamba Juice, or you could have a boba place, or even any fast food place could technically take a space here. So now building depths. So from here, we know we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. But we have to take into account the needs of behind it, picking up trash, doing those things. So basically, let's see here, unlock. Now I think I do want to extend this a little bit more. So I don't want to push it all the way out because that's going to be too large, but I do want to create space here for something that could potentially be the retail building. So I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to scale this down. So if we're scaling down, trying to maximize what we can put in, the depth becomes very important. So you don't want your retail centers to be too deep. The reason is that the smaller the buildings and the deeper the building, the smaller spaces leased can be like hallways. And you don't want people to operate in a hallway because their 1,000 square foot space is 90 feet deep. So you want to make sure it's built functionally so that the layouts of their businesses and your column widths and all of those things make sense. So what we don't want is it to be too deep. But let's see. So here we would have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. 80 is too deep for a building. In my opinion, 50 to 70 max is best for something like this. So we can take this down to 60. So now we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. We'll change the color on this, and our retail centers will now become purple. So we have purple retail. So we know we have the depth, and from a width perspective, we can either check it out here, or we can go over here and um, just double check the length of everything. So since we have this over here on the side, we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 200, 10, oops, 20, 30. So we have about 220. So this building would be roughly, let's say, 60 by 220. So that's 13,200 square feet currently. So that would be too large. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to shrink the width to fit with what we would potentially need here, both to match parking and to match the building. So if we're at 13,200, our linear length from here to here is what's going to be the chaotic part. So we want to keep it at 60. We want to deviate from 60. So we go 60 times 200. Let's see. So that's 12,000. We still a little bit more than what we're looking for, because if we go 12 times 4, that's 48 parking spots exactly. And you don't want to be exact, because with retail centers, if you're putting a restaurant in, the parking ratio is different. It's actually going to be 4 to 1,000. So now we want to make sure that we're accounting for something like that. So the building footprint itself, we'll go 175. So we'll go 170. So now we want to adjust this link to 170. So once again, we'll go back here. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we want to be at the end of this little greenie here. And this would be a roughly 10,000 square foot building that we would be able to do from the retail side, with an assumption of 48 parking spaces. So at 10,000 square feet, you would have 10 times 4. Let's see. Which gives you 40 parking spaces for standardized retail, but we have 48. So what that means is we have enough overflow parking that would technically accommodate a restaurant or two. So now this is pretty optimal when it comes to, an idea of retail in the front. So now we have 10,000. So 10,000 RSF. So RSF is what we would actually be able to lease. And the spaces on the side, like this stuff over here, this could be where they're going to pick up trash. This could be several other things that can't add more parking on the multifamily side is overflow. So the thing with multifamily, the if you're trying to maximize your density, so sorry, what's up, Eddie? Just saw you. If you're trying to maximize the density for your multifamily, the multifamily also has rules for overflow, and you could add overflow here, but I don't want to add overflow from the retail until I understand, based on the ratios for the multifamily, what can we fit and how do we maximize it. If we maximize it and we have additional parking, then yes, we could definitely accommodate some overflow. I just don't want to do the overflow parking just yet, because I'm unsure of how much. So once again, we'll have these roads. So I'm going to unlock my roads, and we're going to keep them nice and thick all the way down. And this is going to come in. This is going to come into play here quickly, because our building designs, whether it's going to be for multifamily or high density single family, this is going to play a very, very, very big role. Now, the crossover here, these road widths may be able to be a little bit smaller depending on what you're developing behind it, but these would be your access points from the main road. and you have to ensure once again that there is access to be able to get a fire truck back there. So 60, 50 feet, maybe it's absorbent, but I'd rather analyze this from that perspective than I would analyze it from a lower perspective and throw off everything. Worst case scenario is always the best way to initiate and start things, and it's just because it's because if it's going to work and still make money in a worst case or lower case scenario, if it's better than that, it's just upside. It's just you're making your clients happier. So with these roads, I do think that they'll probably be a little bit shorter, if you will. So I'm just going to unlock this stuff. I'm going to roll these things down, and I'm going to try to make these two line up here. So these will be baseline links. Once again, Canva is very good about helping line things up. So now that we have built in the retail idea, because this is set up and structured this way, and because this back portion we're unsure, are we going to do multifamily? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? So what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate and duplicate and duplicate, because now we can make multiple plans with our strategic metrics built in for the retail in front, and we can change the back, whether it's going to be garden style multifamily, whether it's going to be BTR, whether it's going to be single family, whatever it's going to be. Now we have a great baseline for this type of thing. So we can start with this first one. But yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye on chat. If y'all have any questions or anything, just please fire away. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. Once again, I go into like this weird tunnel vision with this stuff, so bear with me and my weird focus. All right. So I'm going to blast a hello. And real quick, before I go to the next steps, couple things I want to give a shout out. So this will be our new podcast. So big shout out to my boy David Kang, Beyond the Charge podcast. We are getting everything tightened up and ready to go live. So we're going to have some awesome podcasts dropping soon. We'll have 3 audios dropped immediately, and then we have 3 or 4 other awesome podcasts in the chamber. So we'll have that coming out here really soon. So I want to give a shout out to my co-host David Kang. Once again, check him out on Instagram, Trader Kang, amazing guy. So it's just so much fun just talking and being organic with him. So love you, brother, and really enjoy doing this with you. And a quick shout out, I want to give a shout out to Revo Construction, dear friend of mine, Ling, who they're actually building a tremendous amount of our projects now. They do pretty much all of our horizontal development on projects, as well as a lot of our vertical for our commercial. They're amazing. So if you need somebody great, give them a shout. And Priority Insurance. So Priority Insurance, they're my go-to for all of our insurance, not only my personal stuff, but also the preferred insurance companies that I'm using for our projects, as well as they provide all of our construction insurance and everything like that. So big shout out to Priority Insurance. Quick plugs, quick shout outs. So, okay, back to this. So we've already run a lot longer than I was expecting, so I apologize. But I'm going to go into this section now. What do we need to do here? So how are we going to do and design multifamily, and how is this access point? So what Eddie had mentioned in chat just a second ago, could there be more parking behind it? And the answer is yes. So the first thing we're going to do is duplicate, and we're going to rotate this, because we still need cross sections and crossroads to connect here. So we have to have access, once again, that wraps around or has some form of connection here. This would also provide access here in the backside. We know this is 60 feet wide already. So now we're going to start playing with this area. And this is where it gets a little interesting, and you really have to kind of think about this. So let's start with multifamily first. So I'm going to backtrack these really quickly. And let me see. Open this up, because this is a different design I did on a different property. And I sat down with a friend and client of mine, and we were going over different options, right? And what we did is we quantified multifamily buildings. So this multifamily building here is 120 feet by 70 feet. It has 4 units per building. And then these are stackable, so you can go up from there. So this building, if you imagine level 1, you have 8 units. Level 2, additional 8. Level 3, additional 8. So once again, I'm going to see if I can copy, not all of this, not all of this. Bam. Let's see. Got this locked. Okay. Okay, it may copy more than I want. It definitely will. Okay. That's fine. I don't care. I'm going to work with it. So I'm going to bring that over here. Bam. Okay. So we have all this weird stuff. So now what I'll do is actually I have a better idea. I have a better idea. Get out of here. I'm going to duplicate one more page. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go back to my thing here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to the blank page, and I'm going to delete the unnecessary items. So we know 70 by 120. All right. And y'all feel free if y'all have any comments or anything to say, or if I'm being too boring or whatever. I really wanted to play music, but the rules for music are pretty strict. So yeah. So now I can just copy these. Bam. And I'll scroll back up. So now I don't have to worry about like, taking weird things and all that stuff. So here we go. So now we know 120 feet by 70 feet. So let's measure what would 120 feet look like on our scale. So, oh, that was pretty bad. There we go. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20. So we know this right here is going to be roughly 120. So literally under the 2, which the 2's in line with the beginning of the 3. So we'll shrink it down to like right there. All right. So now we have roughly 120. Once again, double check 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20-ish. So let's use it. Let's roll with it. Now let's double check this side here. So from here we'll go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So 70, 80. So it's a little bit larger than this. So this, we're going to adjust this building, the metrics on it to, uh-oh, there we go. So we'll do 80 feet. So that small variance isn't going to play too big of a role, but now we have good metrics on what can fit where. Oh no. Let's see. Gotta lock this in. Boom. Nope. Bad. Nope. Okay, I want to lock this. Bam. Sorry, y'all. Technical difficulty. Okay, that should be it. All right. So now we want to place these buildings in a way that we can really maximize how we're going to do this. So once again, parking becomes ultra important when you're doing something like this. So for the time being, because we do need to take into account the parking, I'm going to do like garden style here. I'll duplicate. I'll do like another little garden style. So we'll start with 2 buildings for now. Once again, we want to keep enough space for the parking and all of that stuff. So imagine that these are actually 3 stories. So this would be 48 units, hypothetically. So we have a blend of 1s and 2s for the bedrooms. So with 1 bedrooms, you need parking requirements of 1.33 parking. For 2 bedrooms, you need 1.66. for 3 bedrooms, you need 2 parking spaces. So having a blend, and just for the sake of conversation, we're going to assume 50-50. So over here, I'm going to notate everything I need for my multifamily. So multifamily unit. There we go. Boom. Now I'll space this out, and we're going to take into account parking unit. So if we have each building, once again, 24 units, that means we'll have 12 1-bed and 12 2-bed. Okay. So this covers this entire building and all 3 floors. Once again, we want to stay under 4. Once you hit 4, you have to add elevators. So once again, we're building economically. So we have 12 ones, 12 twos. So from a parking perspective, 1.33, 1.66. Sorry. So we're going to need roughly 36 is the minimum, but let's aim for 40 parking spaces per. And this is bothering me, so I need to yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, a little bit better. Okay, so we'll need, I'm going to add this in here. Space dash space. So for this, we would need 15.96 parking. Space dash space. For this, we would need 19.92 parking. And what they make you do is they want you to round up. So we will need total of 35.88, and then we'll round to 40. Boom. So now we want to make sure we have 40 parking spaces per building. All right, I'm going to put that there. So 40, 40, 80 parking total. All right. So now we know we have 48 and 48. So it's nice to have this kind of here in place. So once again, we want to go and lock everything up so that we're not dragging all kinds of nonsense around. We'll lock you. And then I'm going to take just this parking. Because once again, we did this earlier. This is 24. So boom, duplicated. Let's put this parking around the back here. Little back parking. Then I'll duplicate it again. Let's rotate some parking, maybe in front of the buildings. I think people like to park kind of close to where they reside. So we can't quite fit the full 40 here. So what I'm going to do is back it out to like here. Duplicate again. There we go, Missy Elliott it. Bring that down here. And what we're going to try to figure out is, can we integrate parking on these sides? Because this will be a big deal in the future, depending on how many parking, what do we have going on here? So I'm going to remove, and then here, remove. So I'm going to lock this in and copy this. Once again, I'll duplicate it. I'm going to flip it, and we're going to see, boom, a little bit of more parking, and then boom, we'll take you down here, flip you around, have a good time, 180 in line, bam, one more time, and then we got to fill in this little gap here at the back. So let's see. Once again, you can't fit it all in. That's what she said, but all right. We'll get rid of some of these. Boom. There we go. Okay, looks good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 times 3 is 30 here. So once again, I'll notate this. Boom. go ahead and 30 parking. And because we know that this here is the same as this here, so we know we have 30 parking here. So now we have 60 parking spaces. And the thing about like this section here with apartments, the road widths can be different. So if it's gated and it's more of a private access, the roads may be able to be smaller. So that's why this becomes relative, and the spacing and how these buildings are all laid out. So we need to understand how much parking we can actually fit in here. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus 3. So what is that? 10 plus 3, 33 parking spaces. All right. So we already have our little parking thing here. Boom, 33. Hit that space, hit that, bam, 90 degrees. Now we have 30 parking here. So with 30 parking, if we were able to facilitate parking like this, we have a total of 93 parking spots. With 93 parking spots, now there's potential to add another building. And that's where things get, interesting, because we left some space here, but we also have space here. So this road width becomes, pretty important because we know what these are. The beauty of this is that if you wanted to add another building, if you wanted to adjust this plan, they don't all have to be the same buildings. So it's relative, but it's a good baseline once again. So once again, we're trying our best to get baseline ideas for conceptualized design. So as it sits, we have 93 parking spots. So I'm going to take this, boom, bring it here, 90 degree or 0 degree, and we'll put our total parking. So 93 total parking, bam. So now we know as it sits, we could technically fit 93 spots. So we know for these two, at a bare minimum, we need 48 or 40 parking spots. So 80 total. So we have a balance of 13 parking spaces without taking into account parking here, and parking here. We could probably fit more, and we could probably design these layouts a bit different, where maybe these buildings are long ways and you put another one here, something like that. There's a bunch of ways that you could skin the cat. You could shift the buildings and move this parking to the other side and add additional parking there and here. So once again, now that we have this baseline done, I'm going to duplicate it because I don't want to mess this one up. So now I can go in here and I can make some adjustments and say, okay, let's see what this is going to be like. So I'm going to move this and rotate, boom. And let's line it up a little bit here. So about right there. Okay. Then I'll do the same thing with this. Bam. Hit that 90, and then we'll drop it right here. Okay. So once again, we have overlap. Let's get rid of it. Bam. Don't need you. Nice knowing you. Okay. We'll leave this as it sits for now. My 120 back. I'm gonna kind of put it inside this. I think that'll make it a little bit easier to not get messed up. Okay. So now, originally, this was our first concept. We know we could fit more parking, and we know we could fit more potential buildings. So how do we make this work and try to fit, another building in, or another X number of units? Well, how do we maximize how this is going to work? So this here, I'm going to duplicate my little square, bam. And we're going to make like some smaller roads. So once again, these would be access roads through here. And let's see, this would be around 30 feet, which is perfect. So we're going to have a rough 30-foot road. Let me move my little parking emblem there. bam. And then I'm going to change this to match this color. So we have a commonality when it comes to streets. So commonality 30. See you, bud. I'll just put you up here. It's fine. And same thing here. So once again, these need to connect somewhere. So we're going to run them through. Boom. Putting our parking lots in place. So we'll have this drive here. We'll duplicate this. Rotate. Hit that 90. And then boom. Drag the sucker down. Okay. So this is basically going to be kind of our ideology here. So how do we maximize, minimize? How do we make this work so that we get another building in? Do we reduce the widths of these buildings and try to hit that 70 because 70 is still viable, but it opens up space here in the center? Do you turn these sideways and try to fit something else in? Do you try to increase the number of units in each building by increasing the length of the buildings? So it doesn't always mean another building. It could also mean let's change these buildings and make them a little bit bigger. So that's the kind of idea I'm going to go with here. Because I want to try to get some parking on this side, I'm going to copy these and I'm going to rotate you. Bam. Hit that 90. We'll have it kind of butt up against this here. So now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to duplicate. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right. So I'll take this one. I'm going to duplicate it. We're going to roll it up here. I'm going to flip it around. But this time I'm going to make an adjustment to this. So now I'm going to layer it like that. Boom. So now each building here has gone from 8 per floor to 12 per floor. So now if we have 12 times 3 floors, what is 12 times 3? 36 units. So we have 36 units. So now I'm going to take this one, see you nerd, and I'm going to take this, dupe, boom, and there we go. So just like that, we went from, how many units do we have? 48. Was it 48? 48. Yeah, 24, 24. So now we went to 36, 36. So 72 units. So this all will have to change. Now with 72 units, do the same thing here. Let's see. So 36, so what is that, 18 here and 18 here. So now it's going to go back to ratios. So our ratios change. So now per building, we will need a total of, let's see, can we eliminate amenities, leasing office, where it's a choice? Yeah, so with really economical stuff like this, you don't necessarily need leasing office, you don't need the amenities and things like that. Those things are drivers, especially if you're gonna have, big units, but area is important when it comes to understanding that. Like, is that a demand? So your market research becomes super important when you're trying to evaluate, okay, what are people willing to pay per square foot to lease here? Are they willing to pay A, B, C, and D? Are they willing to pay X? Because as the price per square foot grows, the demand for the amenity, the demand for these certain things grows. And what we did for our project that was on Aldine Melroute Road is we actually used one of the units as the leasing office, and it operated as the leasing office until basically we're done. So by doing that, you don't need a physical leasing office, but you have a tangible finished unit that you can use as the driver for people to go and see and do whatever they need to do. So, all right. So then each building we will need a total of, I'm just going to round it up and put the final number because y'all know what we need. Minimum is 55 per building. Let's see here, boom. I want to just make this more clear. It's a little. Okay. So 55 per building, so that means we need a minimum of 110 parking spaces total to accommodate this unit blend. This unit blend, once again, um, we'll have 12 times 3, so 36, 36, 72 units. I'm trying to find a good place to put this. Boom. So 72 units total. All right, so with 72, we know what our parking requirements are. So now we can kind of dig into what is here and can we add parking on this side to accommodate. So we adjusted these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So 29 times 3. So that's 87 parking spaces. So we need to find some more parking. So what it looks like we can do, if we can use these roads here, that was dumb of me because we can just go and we'll shift all of these over to this line. And then we'll take this, we'll hit that dupe, bam. So we just added 3 more parking spaces. So we're at 90, bam. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll take this, shift it over all the way, bam. Take this one, duplicate it, add it on the end, and you want to keep some space here, just like we have space here. This would be like for dumpsters and stuff like that. So once again, maybe you lose a spot here, but adding another 3, so we're at 93. So we still are short 17 spots, and that's where this comes into play, right here. Because if we can squeeze in some parking here, shift these a little bit closer, we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 24 parking spaces here. So I'm going to lock this down. Take this, bam, dupe, flip, hit that 180 right there. And let's put it on this side. Bam. So now we added 24 on this side. So if we add the 24, we're at 117. So as it sits, we have 117 parking spots with this design, with these units. So we have 7 additional spaces. So this would be kind of an idea, you know, to design and to move forward with this as multifamily garden style buildings. And once again, these stay 3 feet or 3 stories because we do not want to have to add elevators. We want everything to be stairs, very economical, unit blends to fit with what the environment requires. So that will be that's a separate step where you'll do market studies and understand what is leasing best and worst. So for Aldine Melroute Road, that area, 100% is 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms are the number one most desirable type of unit. But if it's 1 bedrooms, or if you need more 2 bedrooms, that will impact how your parking is and the parking requirements, and it could impact also building sizes. So, you know, it's one of those things you want to make sure that you're blended well. So we're blended 50-50 right now, which is still pretty good. The biggest shift I would look at is if you're 50-50, you may shift it to 60-40, 70-30 at the max because you still want to have some ones. But this concept right here, we're looking at a total of, right, I'm just going to make another little box and I'll make it so that's kind of more writable. So we'll go boom, minimize, Boom. Just make it white, simple. So here we have um, 72 multifamily units. And then we have an additional 10,000 square feet of retail. So in the event that this is of desire for your client, you can start using these metrics to quantify value. So what is the expected retail rate for a building like this in this area? What is the expected income rate for apartments in this area? So you can use this as a baseline pro forma. And once again, we still saved our original one. And even beyond this, boom, we still have our other original. So now we can play with this one and see the next steps, which would be what does BTR look like? What does single family look like? Can we do private access and shared road or things like that to help eliminate or reduce the road presence and maximize your net buildable? For projects like this is not the flood zone, thank goodness. But all of this drive, everything in gray, all of this parking lot here, this is all going to eventually become detention. So we'll aim to do underground detention and maximize the underground as much as we possibly can so that we can maximize our net buildable on the land itself. So, but yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything? I'm kind of done with this section. I just wanted to see if you have any feedback or thoughts. Once again, there's a little bit of a delay, so also message in chat. Once again, sorry if it's a little bit dry. I really wanted to play music and like have like a little bit of a vibe, but um, yeah, YouTube will definitely like flag you for stuff. So you need royalty-free music. So I was scrolling through it, but it was a little boring. Like there's like it's like the Nokia phone music. It wasn't anything that special. But but yeah, just wanted to kind of run through this. And once again, this is a process. It takes a bit of time to start laying these things out and trying your best to perfect them as close to perfection as possible. But this is definitely something that's really helped quite a bit with clients and design practice and understandings. What's up, Jay? But yeah, any questions, any feedback, thoughts, anything I can run through? Just keeping an eye, just in case. So my game plan is I'm gonna save this spot, and a week from today, I want to revisit this with y'all, and we'll go into the single family ideology, the BTR ideology, and kind of wrap up this process, wrap up these steps to get to kind of a concept. Um, Once we have these concepts in place, the next thing I'd love to show y'all is how I design my pro forma based on this. So we know our land costs, we'll put estimated costs for our horizontal and vertical constructions, build out everything from there to our pro forma. Pro forma is what we'll need to understand what do we need from the bank. And once again, we're developing this in two phases. Horizontal will all be done at the same time, and then we decide do we go retail first or we go BTR multifamily first, and we'll structure the loans to accommodate that. So, but yeah, well, I appreciate everybody for checking this out. It's my first time really trying to do the live stream while I work. Once I'm open to feedback, if you have any thoughts, you know, please hit me up and let me know if I could do stuff better, cleaner, less boring. Definitely try to play a little bit of music next time. But it's super fun. It's kind of cool to not do this by myself and alone in the dark at KW office. So yeah, thank you all for checking it out, and don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions or interest or anything like that in real estate. I'm always here to help. But yeah, hope you all have a wonderful day. Once again, make sure to check out our podcast when we release. I'll definitely blast that out with David. It's really awesome. Um, a lot of fun to roll through that. So, all right, we have a wonderful, wonderful night. Let me know if y'all need anything, and hopefully I'll keep bringing some cool content if you enjoy it. But y'all have a good one. Appreciate you guys.